He proposed with a $20 ring and said he invested the rest. Then I found what he bought. The garage door opener groaned, a mechanical shriek that usually signaled the start of my mundane Tuesday morning commute, but today, as the heavy metal sheet rattled up its tracks, it was unveiling the end of my life as I knew it. The fluorescent light flickered on, buzzing like an angry insect, and illuminated the clutter of our shared suburban existence. There were the recycling bins, overflowing with cardboard. There were the winter tires stacked in the corner. And there, squarely in the middle of the space where my Honda Civic should have been able to reverse, was a shape covered by a heavy, gray canvas tarp. It wasn't a box. It wasn't a pile of donations. It was distinctively, aggressively aerodynamic. It leaned on a kickstand, the fabric pulled taut over handlebars and a sleek fuel tank. My heart didn't sink, it simply stopped. I stood there in my heels, clutching my travel mug so hard the ceramic bit into my palm. The steam from my coffee curled into the freezing January air, mirroring the fog of confusion that was rapidly turning into a storm front in my brain. I looked down at my left hand. There, resting loosely on my ring finger, was the band Mark had slid onto my skin less than 12 hours ago. It caught the garage light, but it didn't sparkle. It didn't fire off prisms of light. It just sat there, dull and flat. A placeholder. That's what he had called it. A strategic, financial placeholder. I walked toward the tarp. My legs felt heavy, like I was wading through wet concrete. I reached out, my fingers brushing against the rough canvas, and I knew. Deep down in the pit of my stomach, where intuition screams before logic can catch up, I knew exactly what was underneath. I gripped the fabric and pulled. The tarp slid off with a heavy swish, pooling on the concrete floor. It was red. Not just red, it was a violent, screaming Italian red. A brand new, 0-mile Ducati Panigale V2. It gleamed under the flickering lights, a predator made of carbon fiber and aluminum. It looked fast, dangerous, and expensive. I stared at the chrome. I stared at the leather seat. And then, I stared at the ring on my finger. The pieces of the puzzle slammed together with such force I physically stumbled back against the recycling bin. Invested, I whispered to the empty garage. The word tasted like bile. To understand why a motorcycle in a garage shattered my world, you have to understand last night. You have to understand the last 3 years. Mark and I have been together for 5 years. We are not rich people. I work in logistics, he works in sales. We make decent money, but we live in a city where the cost of living eats you alive. 3 years ago, we started the Future Fund. It was a high-yield savings account specifically for the next steps, the ring, the wedding, the down payment. We contributed religiously. I stopped getting my nails done. I started bringing lunch to work every single day, soggy salads and leftovers, saving $15 a day. We skipped the annual trip to Mexico. We drove our old cars into the ground. Every time I wanted to buy something, Mark would smile that charming, dimpled smile and say, "Think about the future, babe. Think about the house. Think about the rock I'm going to put on your finger." He was the disciplined one. Or so I thought. He managed the finances because he was better with numbers. I trusted him. God, I trusted him so much it makes me nauseous to think about it now. Last night was the culmination of all that sacrifice. He had cooked dinner. It wasn't anything fancy, spaghetti and a bottle of wine we'd been saving, but the mood was heavy with expectation. He had been acting nervous all week. Checking his pockets, sweating, glancing at the clock. After we ate, he dropped to one knee in the living room. My hands flew to my face. I started crying before he even spoke. "Elena," he said, his voice trembling. "You are my rock. You are the only thing that makes sense in this world. I want to build a life with you. I want to be with you forever." He pulled a velvet box from his pocket. My heart was hammering a hole in my chest. This was it. The moment we scraped and saved for. He opened the box. I blinked. Inside was a simple silver band with a single, clear stone. But something was off. It was cloudy. The setting looked like stamped metal. It looked like something you'd get out of a coin machine at a bowling alley. I looked at him, confused. "I know," he said quickly, cutting off my thought before I could even form it. He stood up and took my hands. "It's not the ring. It's a placeholder." "A placeholder?" I asked, my voice small. "Yes," Mark said, his eyes intense, pleading with me to understand his genius. "I went to buy the diamond last week, babe. I had the $10,000 ready to go. But then I saw the market trends. The interest rates are skyrocketing. I realized, why would we dump 10 grand into a rock right now when the market is prime for a short-term yield spike?" He began to pace, waving his hands. "So, I took the 10,000, and I moved it into a locked, 12-month high-yield CD. It's going to accrue 5% interest guaranteed, maybe more if the index shifts. In 1 year, babe, we won't just have the ring. We'll have the ring plus the start of the honeymoon fund. It's free money. I bought this cubic zirconia just so you'd have something to wear, but the real money is working for us. It's growing." He looked at me, beaming. "I'm securing our future, Elena. I'm being the man who takes care of us." I looked at the cheap ring. It felt light, insubstantial. Part of me, the romantic part, was crushed. I wanted the sparkle. I wanted the symbol. But the logical part of me, the part that had been trained by him for 3 years to value the future fund above all else, nodded. That's really smart, Mark," I said, forcing a smile. "You're right. It's just a rock. The investment is smarter." "Exactly." He kissed me. "I knew you'd get it. You're the best partner." I wore the ring. We drank the wine. We went to bed. I fell asleep telling myself that I was lucky to have a man who thought about interest rates and long-term security instead of instant gratification. And then I walked into the garage and found a Ducati. I stood there, staring at the bike. The red paint mocked me. I walked around to the back of the bike. There was a small, temporary tag on the license plate holder. "Sold to Mark Davidson." Date, January 19th. Time, 3:45 p.m. Yesterday. He bought it yesterday afternoon. 4 hours before he got down on one knee and told me he had invested our money. I felt a heat rising in my neck that had nothing to do with the temperature. My vision went blurry, pulsing at the edges. It wasn't just anger. It was a physical rejection of reality. "No," I whispered. "No, he wouldn't." I needed to be sure. I needed to see the numbers. I looked at the bike. There was a small leather pannier bag strapped to the side. I undid the buckles. My fingers were shaking so badly I broke a nail, the plastic acrylic snapping off, but I didn't feel the pain. I reached in and pulled out a thick envelope. The dealership folder. I opened it. The paperwork was all there. Purchase price, $9,900. Dealer fees, $450. Total cash down, $10,350. Paid in full. Cashier's check. There was no investment account. There was no CD. There was no market trend. He had taken the $10,000 we had saved for the ring, the money I had eaten soggy salads for, the money I had sacrificed my weekends for, and he had bought himself a toy. And then he had gone to Walmart, bought a $20 piece of glass, and lied to my face. He had looked me in the eye, told me he loved me, and manipulated my trust to cover his tracks. He knew if he just bought the bike, I'd kill him. But if he proposed? If he locked me down? If he spun a story about investing for our future? He thought I was stupid. He thought I was a compliant, naive little woman who would nod her head and say, "Good job, honey." The silence in the garage was broken by the sound of the door from the house opening. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. If I looked at him right now, I might actually set the garage on fire. Babe? Mark's voice was groggy. He was standing at the top of the garage steps in his boxers and a t-shirt. I heard the garage door. You leaving for work? I stood still, the dealership folder in my hand. I took a deep breath. The air tasted like gasoline and betrayal. Elena? He walked down the steps. Why is the tarp off the... He stopped. The silence that followed stretched for an eternity. It was heavy, suffocating. I slowly turned around. Mark was staring at the bike, then at me, then at the folder in my hand. His face went pale. Not the romantic pale of a nervous proposer, but the sickly, gray pale of a man caught holding the smoking gun. Elena, he started, a nervous chuckle bubbling up from his throat. Wait. Don't freak out. I can explain. You can explain? I asked. My voice was terrifyingly calm. It sounded like someone else's voice. You can explain how a high-yield investment account has 2 wheels and a combustion engine? It's an asset. He took a step toward me, his hands up. Babe, listen. These bikes, they hold their value. It is an investment. I saw a deal I couldn't pass up. I figured, I can ride it for a year, sell it for a profit, and then get the ring. It's the same thing. I'm flipping it. You lied, I said. You told me the money was in the bank. You told me you were being responsible. I didn't want to ruin the surprise, he stammered. I wanted to surprise you with the profits later. I did this for us. For us? I laughed. It was a sharp, jagged sound. You bought a motorcycle for us? Do I have a license, Mark? Do I ride? You could learn. We could go on trips. He was sweating now. He was shifting into salesman mode. Come on, Elena. Look at it. It's beautiful. Don't be like this. Don't ruin the morning. We're engaged. He pointed to my hand. To the cheap, cloudy ring. We're engaged, I repeated. I looked down at the ring again. The symbol of his promise. The symbol of his smart financial planning. You spent our wedding fund on a midlife crisis, I said, my voice rising. I ate ramen for 3 years, Mark. I wore clothes until they fell apart. I saved every penny into that account. And you spent it in an afternoon because you wanted to look cool. It's my money too, he snapped, the nice guy mask slipping. His face twisted into a sneer. I put money in that account too, Elena. I deserve something for myself. Why does it always have to be about the ring? Why are you so materialistic? It's just a piece of jewelry. This is a machine. It's engineering. Materialistic? I felt the tears pricking my eyes, but they weren't sad tears. They were angry tears. You gave me a gumball machine ring and told me to wait a year because you cared about our future. You manipulated me. You gaslit me. I didn't gaslight you, he shouted. I made an executive decision. I'm the man of this house. The man of the house, I echoed. I looked at the bike. I looked at him. Okay, I said. He blinked. Okay? You understand? I understand perfectly, I said. I closed the folder and placed it gently on the seat of the motorcycle. You made a decision. You chose the bike. It's not like that, he softened, thinking he had one. He stepped closer and tried to touch my arm. I chose us. The bike is just a bonus. Come on, babe. Put the tarp back on. Go to work. We'll talk about it tonight. I'll take you for a ride. You'll love it. I pulled my arm away. I have to get to work. Right, he smiled, relieved. Go make that money. We have a wedding to save for, right? He winked. He actually winked. I walked past him, up the stairs, and into the house. I heard him sigh in relief and start wrestling the tarp back over his precious Ducati. I didn't go to work. I went into the bedroom. I pulled my suitcase from the top of the closet. I didn't pack everything. I didn't have time. I packed the essentials. My clothes. My laptop. My passport. The jewelry my grandmother gave me, the real jewelry. I worked in silence. My heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Thump thump thump. I was terrified he would come back inside, but I could hear him in the garage. He was whistling. He was probably sitting on the bike, making vroom vroom noises, thinking he had successfully navigated the crisis. He thought he had managed me. He thought because I didn't scream and throw things, I had accepted it. He underestimated me. I carried the suitcase down the hall. I stopped at the desk where we kept the checkbook. I opened it. There was $4,000 left in our checking account, money for bills and rent. I wrote a check to cash for $2,000. My half. I tore it out. Then I walked back into the garage. Mark was wiping a smudge off the fuel tank with the sleeve of his t-shirt. He looked up, surprised to see me with a suitcase. "What's that?" he asked. "Business trip?" I didn't answer. I walked over to the bike. "Elena?" He stood up. "What are you doing?" I took a deep breath. I reached for my left hand. I gripped the cheap, Walmart ring. It was tight, my fingers were swollen from the stress, but I yanked it. It scraped over my knuckle, scratching the skin, but I didn't care. I pulled it off. I held it up. The garage light caught the fake stone one last time. "Mark," I said. "Babe, don't," he warned, his voice dropping. "Don't be dramatic." "You said this was a placeholder," I said, my voice steady. "You were right. It was a placeholder. But not for a diamond." I slapped the ring onto the sticky residue of the adhesive from the dealership sticker on the gas tank. It stuck there, a piece of trash on a $10,000 monument to his selfishness. "It was a placeholder for your ego," I said. "Elena, put the bag down." He stepped toward me, his eyes dark. "You're not going anywhere. You're overreacting. It's just money." "It's not about the money." I screamed, finally letting it out. The sound echoed off the concrete walls. "It's that you looked me in the face and lied. You chose a toy over me. You stole my trust, Mark. You stole my time." I grabbed the handle of my suitcase and backed toward my car. "If you leave," he hissed, pointing a finger at me, "don't think you're coming back. I'm not chasing you. You're walking out on a good man." "A good man?" I laughed, unlocking my car door. A good man doesn't buy a motorcycle with his fiancé's savings and hand her a piece of glass to shut her up. "It's a Ducati," he yelled, like that explained everything. "It's an investment." I threw my suitcase into the passenger seat. I got in. I slammed the door. He was standing there, next to the bike, looking small and pathetic in his underwear. He looked like a child who had been caught stealing cookies, but instead of apologizing, he was mad that he couldn't finish the jar. I started the engine. I put it in reverse. "I hope you marry it, Mark." I shouted through the closed window. "I hope it keeps you warm at night. Because I'm gone." I backed out. As the garage door began to close, the last thing I saw was him, standing next to his red mistress, the cheap ring stuck to the tank, looking at the empty space where my car used to be. I drove. I didn't go to work. I drove straight to the bank, cashed the check, and then I drove to my sister's house 3 hours away. My phone started blowing up about 20 minutes later. "Mark, you're being crazy." "Mark, pick up the phone." "Mark, it was a business decision." "Mark, please, I can return it." I didn't reply. I blocked him. I sat on my sister's couch that night, scrolling through the pictures I had taken. The bike. The paperwork. The ring. I posted them. Not to Facebook. Not to Instagram. I posted them to the group chat with his mother and his sisters. Caption: Since Mark decided to invest our wedding fund into this motorcycle instead of us, I figured you should all see the new love of his life. I've returned the placeholder ring. He's all yours. The fallout was immediate. His mother called him. His sisters called him. Apparently, they had given him money toward the ring too. Family money. Money that was now sitting in the form of a Ducati Panigale in a cold garage. I'm sitting here now, in a guest bedroom, starting over from zero. I have no savings. I have no apartment. I have no fiancé. But I also have number 160-pound deadweight dragging me down. I keep thinking about that moment in the garage. The smirk on his face when he said he was the man of the house. He thought he had checkmated me. He thought the ring was a pair of handcuffs. He forgot that handcuffs have keys. And sometimes, the key is realizing that you're worth more than a cubic zirconia and a lie. So, tell me. Am I the monster for leaving him over a motorcycle and blowing up his spot with his family, or did he get exactly the ride he paid for?
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.